When I was younger, I thought being whole meant being perfect. It wasn't a conscious thought, but looking back, it's clear that I associated perfection with completeness. I looked at the people around me, successful, confident, always on top of their game, and I thought that was the goal. If I could just be perfect in my career, in my relationships, in my appearance, then I would feel whole. I would feel complete. At 22, I thought I had it all figured out. I had recently graduated from college and was diving headfirst into the world of work. I had a job I thought I was supposed to want, a social life that looked exciting on paper, and a clear idea of what my future should look like. But underneath it all, something didn't feel right. I was constantly striving to be the best version of myself, striving to meet expectations, both mine and others. The pressure to live up to these standards was relentless. I would spend my nights lying awake, planning for the future, imagining how I could make myself into the person I thought I should be. But no matter how hard I tried, it always felt like something was missing. The more I tried to force myself into the mold of perfection, the more I felt like I was losing myself. I thought that by the time I was 24, I'd have everything sorted. By then, I'd be the version of myself I had been chasing for so long, someone who was strong, confident, successful, and always in control. But I couldn't have been further from the truth. It wasn't until I hit 24 that I realized something profound. All the striving, all the planning, all the striving for an idealized version of myself had left me feeling empty. I was exhausted, mentally, physically, and emotionally. I had spent so much time trying to be everything for everyone else that I had forgotten how to be there for myself. I had forgotten what truly made me happy, what brought me peace, and what made me feel alive. That's when I hit a breaking point. I woke up one morning feeling completely drained, like I had nothing left to give. My work was no longer fulfilling, my social life felt shallow, and I felt disconnected from everything that once mattered. I wasn't sure who I was anymore, beyond the labels I had created for myself, the hardworking employee, the loyal friend, the dutiful daughter. But none of these labels were enough to fill the empty space I was feeling inside. In a moment of desperation, I made the decision to stop. I decided to let go of everything I thought I should be, everything I thought I was supposed to be, and just be. It wasn't an easy decision. The fear of losing control, of not living up to the expectations of others, weighed heavily on me. But deep down, I knew something had to change. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to step away from the hustle. I took a break from my job, I stopped trying to force connections with people who didn't serve me, and I began to rediscover the things I loved. I gave myself permission to rest, to reflect, and to embrace the stillness I had been avoiding for so long. The process of rediscovery wasn't instant. At first, I was filled with a sense of guilt. Guilt that I wasn't doing enough. Guilt that I wasn't constantly striving. Guilt that I was taking time for myself. But gradually, as I allowed myself the space to just be, I began to uncover parts of myself I had long neglected. I rediscovered passions I had set aside in my pursuit of perfection. I picked up a paintbrush for the first time in years, and I found joy in expressing myself through art. I started journaling again, something I had once done religiously, and in those pages, I found clarity. I started reading books that weren't related to work or self-improvement, just stories that allowed me to escape into another world. In those moments of stillness, I began to reconnect with the person I had lost along the way, the person who didn't need to be perfect, the person who didn't have all the answers, but was still worthy of love and respect. For the first time, I allowed myself to be imperfect. I allowed myself to feel the full range of emotions without judgment. I embraced the parts of me I had been ashamed of, the messy, complicated, emotional parts of me, because I realized they were just as important as the parts of me that were put together. While I was learning to reconnect with myself, I still struggled with the concept of self-acceptance. I had spent so many years telling myself that I wasn't enough unless I was perfect. And even though I had taken time to reflect and relax, there was still a nagging voice in the back of my mind that told me I needed to do more, be more, achieve more. I wasn't truly whole unless I had everything figured out. I began to recognize that self-acceptance was a skill I needed to cultivate. It wasn't enough to simply let go of external expectations. I also had to let go of myself with kindness, to stop holding myself to impossible standards. It wasn't easy. The road to self-acceptance was filled with moments of doubt, moments where I questioned whether I was really enough as I was. But each time I faced those thoughts, I reminded myself that healing and becoming whole didn't mean perfection. It meant accepting myself in all my messiness and imperfection. In my journey toward wholeness, I realized that becoming whole also meant letting go of things that no longer served me, relationships, situations, and even habits that had been holding me back. It was the hardest thing to do, but it was also the most necessary. I had been afraid of letting go. I thought that if I let go of certain relationships or opportunities, I would be losing something important. But what I found was that in letting go, I was making space for something better. I was learning to trust myself and my instincts. I was learning to trust that what was meant for me would come when the time was right, and that I didn't need to cling to things out of fear of loss. Letting go wasn't about giving up. It was about freeing myself from the weight of things that were draining me. It was about releasing the expectations I had placed on myself, the relationships that didn't lift me up, and the habits that no longer aligned with the person I was becoming. I learned that sometimes the only way to grow is to make room for new experiences, new people, and new opportunities by letting go of what no longer serves you. One of the most profound realizations I had during this journey was that becoming whole isn't a destination. It's an ongoing process. There is no perfect version of myself to reach. There is no final polished product. Becoming whole is about embracing every part of myself, the parts I love and the parts I'm still learning to love. At 24, I realized that I didn't need to be perfect to be worthy. I didn't need to achieve some unattainable standard of success to feel fulfilled. I could be whole even when I didn't have everything figured out. I could be enough, right where I was. Becoming whole is about letting go of perfection, about accepting ourselves as we are, flaws, fears, and all. It's about understanding that we are constantly evolving, constantly learning, and that's okay. It's about embracing the messy, beautiful, imperfect journey of self-discovery. Another key lesson in my journey toward becoming whole was understanding the power of vulnerability. For so long, I had seen vulnerability as a weakness, something to hide or protect. But what I came to realize was that vulnerability is actually where our strength lies. It's in the moments when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable that we truly connect with others, and most importantly, with ourselves. When I started to open up about my struggles, my insecurities, and my fears, I found that I was not alone. Other people were going through similar challenges, and by sharing my story, I was able to create deeper, more meaningful connections with those around me. I learned that being vulnerable didn't make me weak. It made me human. At 24, I feel more whole than I ever have before, but I know that the journey doesn't end here. Becoming whole is an ongoing process, and I will continue to grow, to evolve, and to learn. I still face challenges, doubts, and moments of insecurity, but I now know that I don't need to be perfect to be whole. I don't need to have everything figured out. I am enough, as I am, and I now understand that the beauty of life lies in the journey itself, in the process of becoming, not in the destination. I am constantly evolving, constantly learning, and embracing every step of the way.